when you're putting yourself out there and you're just being truthful and honest about who you are, what you're thinking, what your desires are, what you have an issue with, and you're there not from a let's fight and get it on standpoint, but from a let's resolve stuff. Let's get shit figured out and see if it pans out. If it doesn't pan out, this is my lane. This is where I want to be, and I understand. Two different lanes. It's okay.
Yep.
But now you're clearing your path. You're clearing your energy, and you're dropping a shit ton of baggage that you don't need to carry.
Oh,
with
man.
What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship, and our fantabulous Mindset Monday series with my co-host Justin Thorstad. Oh yeah.
What was that?
I just went to Universal Studios and I did the Mario World tour over the weekend. It was pretty cool.
Very cool.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. How'd you like it?
It was different. Yeah, the end caught me off guard. That's for sure. It was a twist
I don't know, I
there.
feel like
at
I'm
the
stepping up my game and you're not appreciating me for
what? No,
for my truth, man.
Well,
Which
as long as you speak your truth, though.
I'm going to be speaking my truth all day long, every day, twice on Sunday.
Good.
Which takes me to this week's topic of the Mindset Monday series. Speaking your truth, right? What does that even mean, I think? That can be it's a very valid question, but when we talk about speaking our truth, speaking who we truly are or what we're truly thinking, sometimes it can be more challenging than expected. And I know we're going to dive deep into this real quick. And it's a very loaded subject. I feel like people walk on eggshells a lot of times in relationships, in business, and for no reason. When all you have to do is have sometimes a difficult conversation will save you years of pain, right? So let's unpack that a little bit and talk about what speaking our truth really means, and the catalyst that it can be and the good stuff that it can bring to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so speaking your truth, well, what is your truth? And I think truth is really a matter of perspective, because how many universal truths do we really use and operate with, right? So your perception of a situation, what are you really thinking? What are you really feeling? What's heavy on your mind, heavy on your heart? And most importantly, what has you holding back or hesitating to speak your truth to the person that you need to speak to and clear off that energy, right? And I just noticed for myself, in the past, the longer I went between the situation, the circumstance, and speaking my truth to that person, it just got worse, because within me, my mind's thinking up stories and jumping to conclusions and making assumptions. And now I have more resentment than from the initial situation or circumstance. And it can become harder and harder to speak your truth. Yet at the end of the day,
100%,
what you're avoiding is really just that uncomfortability of, what if they get mad at me? What if they pull away their connection? What if it ends this relationship? All those different kinds of things. And I got to tell you, man, every single time I've spoken my truth, which now I do it up front, and I'll explain that in a minute, but it's never harmed me. In fact, it does me a hell of a lot of good, because at least that person understands honestly, authentically where I'm at and facts, so we can work on that, right? But to not say anything and pretend it didn't happen, they may not even know that you have a problem with the situation because you never said anything. So we make up this story about what's going to go wrong if I say how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking about the situation, speaking my truth, and you might be full of shit. Everything might be elevated now because you opened your ass hole and stated what you needed or what's missing or what the problem is. And now that, change can occur. But if you don't open up your mouth and speak your truth, nobody knows. And you might be harming people or the business or the relationship because you're not being honest with where you're at.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think most of the time we, and I've been guilty of this as well, creating stories and just kind of, they start growing and getting bigger and getting uglier. And they're all happening inside our head, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be, a situation at work, sometimes in relationships, that kind of stuff happens. Instead of just, coming up and and speaking what you're thinking. Okay, so saying, just getting that energy, that bad energy off of your chest, can be a catalyst for change, right?
100%.
It'll I mean, it's gonna feel like a load off your back, and it really does. Especially when, like, for example, sometimes business conversations can be a little tricky for entrepreneurs, and we'll I don't want to get too into like the relationship side of things, but it's the same thing. They can be a little tricky, right? And it's like sometimes just to not have some creative conflict, right? Or to grow and to break through shells and barriers, sometimes you need to have that challenge, right? So conflict can be a good thing, and I've seen, man, like so many people that hold back from having an honest conversation, from having just self-expression and letting people what they're know what they're thinking, what they're what they want, right?
100%,
as part of whatever it is that they're doing, and holding back because I don't want to create conflict. I don't want to create. I don't want to stir the boat. I don't want to do. And at
what
the
if
end
I'm
of the day,
word look look stupid by saying this, or all kinds of things?
And if we were all perfect beings and we were able to brush shit off and energy and thoughts and like it's not gonna matter tomorrow and it's like be perfectly okay with that kind of stuff, I wouldn't even bat an eye to it, right? But people carry that baggage with them, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, or lighter and lighter and lighter, right? With practice. So it just depends on what am I practicing? Am I practicing holding back, or am I practicing speaking my truth quickly? Because something I learned a long time ago that was really pivotal in me changing that part of my personality was someone told me, well, hey, listen, if something happens and on the onset of that situation, that circumstance, you speak your truth, here's what's happening. You don't have time to build up the resentment energy, which I think I speak for a lot of people here, is when something happens and you don't say anything and that pressure builds and that resentment builds, like pretty soon it's like a volcano, and it's going to look for just a time and place where it's able to just discharge all of that energy that's been pent up. And like it's typically in a moment where that was unnecessary, the discharge, on the wrong person, in the wrong circumstance, but it was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like you caused a lot of damage in relationships. And entrepreneur, it's all about relationships, right? Your primary relationship with your honey. Like we discharge that pent up energy somehow, some way, and it's usually in the least desirable time and situation. So like you're doing that. You're choosing not to speak your truth and let it build and the resentment to fester. And it's like, that's a way. But how's it working for you? And for me, it wasn't working very good.
Well, I mean, we also have a right to express. We have a right to express who we are. We have a right to grow into that person that we want to become and we strive for. And we can't do that if we're walking on eggshells all the time. If we're too concerned about whose feelings we're gonna hurt. And unless you're in a situation where it's abusive and whatnot, and you can't then you have different bigger issues.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't express what you're who you are, or what your thoughts are, right? It's a whole different setting. But for the most part, when we go through life, it's about not being I don't want to be rejected.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be alienated from friendships or from this and that for thinking a little different.
I want to belong.
Yeah, I want to belong, and I think that as entrepreneurs, most of the time, and that's our fucking job. That's the gig.
To stand out.
Yeah, it's to hold on and hold strong to who you truly are. What's in alignment for you, for your truth, because those people who choose to travel with you are gonna lean on to you, all the time. So if we don't have a strong hold on who we are, and we don't have a strong hold on our own self-expression, and state things that this is what's in alignment with me, this is not in alignment with me, and it's just a conversation, there's no energy behind it, we can't even do that kind of stuff. I mean, nothing else lines up.
Well, I mean, listen, my experience has been, if you want to be of the highest value to people, right, that means then you've got to be willing to be raw and speak your truth and share your perspective, no matter what the consequences are. And if you do that really well, consistently over time, people value you because they know they're going to get the truth.
Right.
And in our society, that's so rare. But here's the other thing, like what you said, perfect self-expression. When you feel confident and secure to authentically express yourself unapologetically, I mean, obviously you're just going to be respectful, but this is my truth. Like when you do that, here's the really cool consequence.
Yeah.
You start to come in to value your opinion of yourself way more than any exterior opinions or judgments on you. Right. So you no longer pay attention to those. Now, that's called unfuckwittable, because the only person that can knock you off your center, so to speak, is you. Like you wouldn't walk on eggshells anymore. And here's the value in that. Like I was having a conversation with my business partner, one of them, earlier this morning in our weekly standing meeting. And like we disagree a lot. And I'm so grateful for that, because think about it. If we're both agreeing, that means I believe a certain thing and I speak it to you, you agree, which means you believe the same thing. Therefore, you think I'm right because you agree with what I'm saying, and we're in agreement. And people think that's a good thing. Well, if you're always in agreement and there's no conflict, so to speak, what new information is coming in that you get to entertain and evolve yourself and what you're doing? Like you got to have new information coming in, and when that happens, at first sometimes it doesn't fit.
I like conflict, but I like creative conflict.
Totally, yeah. That's what I mean. Like it's like we disagree, but that's because we're also testing the validity of what the other one's saying. Like we're poking holes in it to see if it carries weight. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, playing devil's advocate. I mean,
totally.
It's a smart thing to do, especially in business, right? Like, okay, what happens if we go down this route and then you have somebody else who just kind of, not antagonizes or pushes back in a negative way, but challenges
constructive.
Constructive criticism of an idea, right? And I mean, I think that takes us into a whole different plane of understanding of each other, of our work environment, of our business, right? At the end of the day, we still have to stand strong with who we are, and we have to express. We have to have those difficult conversations at times. So it's incredible, man. It's really sad to see, and I'll use the word sad to its fullest extent, because it is sad to see years wasted, in people who have talent, because they just didn't have the I mean, I don't know. I don't want to call it guts and be mean, but it's really
spine.
What it is. Yeah, the spine to hold on to and stand up for their truth.
Yeah.
So, for their beliefs, who they are, and they go along with whatever the wave just kind of status quo, whatever the brave brings. Yet internally they're demotivated. There's no passion. There's no they have issues left and right, but they will not speak their truth. They won't speak who they are. They won't hold on and have a stronghold on themselves. And I don't know, that to me it's I think it's an important thing to just consider, right? Because if you're listening to the podcast right now, ask yourself, when have you held back from having a difficult conversation? When have you held back from expressing who you truly are, what your desires are, and valuing? It comes down to self-value as well. Like, what is my value? Like, a lot of times we go through life without valuing ourselves, our capacity, right, our talents, and just the magic that we bring into the world. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that in the past I haven't, I've doubted it and whatnot. But you get to a place of understanding, and you find out and accept that, okay, man, I have strengths. I have, I have certain things that are I'm good at, and this is it starts to become, my truth, and then you got to voice it.
Right. Well, I'll just speak for myself. Like when I was real young, I didn't have a voice. Like I wasn't allowed to have an opinion or a vote, so to speak. Yeah. So it was never safe, right? Because of that belonging. Like your primary caretakers, when you speak up, you get shut down and in a really bad way, right? So it was painful to speak your truth, which means I didn't. Plus being told I'm not smart and all of that. So when I got into the job force, it's like when asked for a contribution, it's like, I have an opinion, but I don't want to say anything. So it made me awkward.
Fuck it up.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't want to be alienated.
However, later on in life, realizing that in this one particular facet, like I knew what the hell I was talking about. Like you can refute all you want. I don't give a damn what your opinion is. Like I know what I'm talking about with this one thing, right? Yeah. And so that was the doorway. That was the opportunity for me to start speaking my truth. And what I learned along the way in the process was, wait, I am already of value. I'm already worthy. I'm already deserving. I'm already enough. I got to love me. And then when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I can speak my truth to. I don't know what I'm talking about. However, I'm pondering, I'm thinking, I'm deducting that this is the way it should be. You know what I mean? Like whether I'm right or wrong, at least I'm speaking my truth. Yeah. I'm contributing something.
And we have to let that energy out. Like,
Yeah.
we have to let
Dude.
that energy out. I mean, sometimes we feel like, okay, I'm not like an antagonistic person. I don't like, I just go with it, and I'm more mellow and whatnot. I don't like drama. Yeah, the drama is one thing, and chaos, conflict. It's all that kind of categorizes into this area, right? But something very different is to hold yourself to your own truth and respect that. Have that self-respect to value yourself enough that you speak your mind.
Yeah.
You speak, what you truly believe in. There's rights, there's wrongs. Sometimes there's stuff that it's happening around you that forces you to make a pivot and whatnot, and that's perfectly fine, right? It's better to feel good with the person that we are, with the actions that we're taking on a day-to-day basis. Than to go through it just for the sake of the status quo and not having some ripple effects. And I mean, don't get me into the space of being unmemorable, but it's I mean, I feel like we have the ability to make a dent in certain things. We can't do that stuff if we're not being truthful to ourselves.
So here's how I know that I completely eradicated that part of my old personality that didn't speak up and was awkward about it.
Yeah.
So a mutual acquaintance that passed, Mr. Martinez, a couple years back, he had gotten me a Cutco knife, and he had it engraved, and it has my name on it and says "Cutting Through the Bullshit." Now, I'm not a sentimental kind of person. Like I don't have attachment to physical things. You know what I mean? However, that knife, man, it's very it's a nice reminder. Like, I don't give up about speaking my truth, because if you don't like it, like, I'm okay with that, because my intention, the energy behind what I speak, is not of ill will. It's not to harm or damage or cut someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know where my heart is with what I'm saying, so I'm clean with that. And besides, I'm not responsible for your feelings or your filters of how you perceive things. So I always speak my truth now, moment by moment, and it's so liberating. And here's the thing. What has people holding back and not speaking their truth? They're attempting to prevent drama or, rocking the boat, so to speak. They want to keep the peace. But that energy you're hanging on to is not peaceful. Like, you pay heavy prices for that. It affects your biology, your attitude, your mental well-being, your emotional state. Like, it does so much damage, and no change can occur because you haven't opened your mouth, spoken the truth. So that person or people don't have new information. Like, what you're running from,
all kinds
you run
of
into
stories that are that are being built and created inside our minds at that point.
Well, and you're going to create a problem when you finally let it out, because you knew the answer all along and you didn't say anything. And you could look at all these things we could have avoided. Like, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure, and you said nothing. Like, that's a huge take.
Yeah. Difficult conversations, man, sometimes can be scary.
Well, it's only difficult and scary because you're making up a story about what's going to go wrong.
I agree.
And you're probably full of shit.
Totally agree.
You know?
I totally agree. And I think, like, when we're I don't know, we want to put something on the table and whatnot, like the anticipation stage, it's usually the toughest, the scariest, the one that creates the most, it's kind of like you jumping into an ice bath. Or me when I don't want to go to the gym and I end up going to the gym, right? Like, it's the prepping up to it.
Yeah, thinking about it.
Yeah, that gets you angsty, and if you can't get through that and take that first step, you're dead in the game. Like, you truly are. But once you step, once you open up that, I don't know, call it a conversation, right? Whatever the situation is, but. When you're putting yourself out there and you're just being truthful and honest about who you are, what you're thinking, what your desires are, what you have an issue with, and you're there not from a let's fight and get it on standpoint, but from a let's resolve stuff. Let's get shit figured out and see if it pans out. If it doesn't pan out, this is my lane. This is where I want to be, and I understand. Total two different lanes. It's okay. But now you're clearing your path, you're clearing your energy, and you're dropping a shit ton of baggage that you don't need to carry with you.
And you don't realize how heavy it is until you have a new point of reference of no longer having it. And it's like, you're not going to die by having the conversation. And so when you get done having the conversation, because everyone listening, watching, like, has experienced this, like, you realize your mind made up all kinds of unnecessary, ridiculous outcomes that didn't happen, and you feel so much better. In fact, you even love yourself a little more. It's like, carrying that stuff around is just so useless. Like, you get a payoff for doing it. That's why you do it. But there's a better payoff, like, called being free and liberated, not carrying that stuff around. And the other person is now informed. They get to do with that whatever they want. and not being attached to what happens with that is very freeing.
And by payoff, let's clear that out. You are getting rewarded by keeping your mouth shut.
Yes, I didn't say it's a positive reward.
Yeah, it's not a positive reward. It's immediate gratification of not having any conflict in your life.
Being uncomfortable.
Right, but that gets extended. It's still going to be there. The thing about a problem is like you can ignore it, but when you come back to a problem, it's going to be bigger.
Yeah.
It grows.
Well, you're right. And it's like
a baby growing and
it's like
eating steak every day. It's just going to get...
Yeah, the knight in shining armor, like entering the cave to slay the dragon, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to kill it while it's small or when it becomes a formidable opponent that's going to take you down?
Yeah.
And the more you avoid it, the bigger it gets. And it's like,
100%.
Man, why go through that entire process of suffering and struggle when you're going to arrive at the end result called speaking your truth anyways, or you're going to take out revenge. And for those of you that are not vindictive and you say, I don't take out revenge, you do. You just take it out on yourself.
Yeah.
So like, why even go through the process?
There's always energy in the retention of not speaking our truth. And there's always negative energy in the retention of not speaking our truth.
So it's actually called the 3 R's. So something happens, a situation, we make up a story about it, right? And we're in resistance. I don't like this. Left unchecked, unspoken, it builds to resentment.
Yeah.
And if resentment goes left unchecked for long, eventually there'll be revenge.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's all an unnecessary cycle that you don't have to involve yourself with if you're aware that you're doing it and you can choose differently. But really, like, sometimes...
Recap on that. It's resistance, resentment, revenge.
Yep.
Got it.
It's the 3 R's. We'll run that cycle if you don't catch it. And
so true.
So there's the 3 C's.
Yeah.
I forget what they are at the moment, but it's basically like communicate. So speak it, right? And collaboration. And damn it, I put myself on the spot. Maybe I should have thought this through first. Yeah, right. Communication, collaboration. Damn, it's been years since I thought of that. Anyways,
I think I get what you're saying though. I get the gist.
Even if there was 2 C's, say it and look for a solution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's really the gist of it. Talk about it, talk it through, and find a solution.
Another thing that speaking your truth does, I mean, it clarifies. I mean, we have to have a certain level of awareness, right, in order to speak anything. But when we're talking about like the stuff that we have issues with, man, I mean, we've done it even before the podcast. Like when we start talking about, okay, what's the topic today? What are we tackling and whatnot? We may have an idea, but as we start to verbalize it, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer, and we have all of a sudden it morphs into this whole other thing that's a lot. It may be different than the initial thing, and the same thing happens when we're speaking our truth, and when we have an issue with something, as we start to verbalize and we start to communicate it, man, like that sounded like it was a lot bigger.
You're able to go several levels deep about what the real issue is.
It increases the level of understanding of everything too. So
totally.
So situationally and now again sometimes all these, whenever we have something and it's just strapped in our head, it's biased. It's a one-way street. It's a one-way street. There's no additional context other than the one that we're creating for that thing. You just don't know what you don't know, right? So sometimes we may have an issue when we speak up. Because we're honoring our truth, it's we get different perspectives. We get different points of view.
More information.
Like, oh man, I thought the issue was this, or oh, there was a genuine misunderstanding, and I think it's a basic topic to speak your mind, but I know it took me forever to own it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I like most of the time I would walk around eggshells in relationships with employees, and I just didn't want to, I don't want to sound like the asshole. I don't want to be, the and what happens is you get developed to a certain point, and you're able to navigate these conversations better and better as you go. But at first they can be a little scary. Why? Because there's uncertainty. There's that need for acceptance. We want to belong. We want to just keep the peace. And then you have the full blown assholes, right? That just don't care.
Sure. That's totally different.
Totally different. I mean, it usually that's an ego type of conversation and whatnot. But I feel like it can be challenging to take that first step to have that conversation. However, when you do, your understanding of things gets better. Your relationships get better, I mean, it's just like I can't express how amazing it is to get that baggage off your back.
Yeah, totally.
Sense?
Well, not only that, but again, in you speaking your truth, you're giving potentially, likely, the other people or person more information. Like that they didn't have before.
You're giving them the respect.
Yeah, so
of having a conversation with them.
I was trying to look for something to see if I could find out what those 3 C's were. 'Cause it's totally skipping my mind. But
wow.
So if you're providing new information and
that was
perspective,
like 15 minutes ago.
Jesus, are you not then being of value?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if you're not speaking your truth, it's really a take from yourself because now you're carrying around that energy. You're not contributing something positive, forward moving. And so if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a
if
concept.
you're not speaking your solution, you are the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
In your world, you are the problem.
So you're not a victim. It's not happening to you. You're choosing it. Like, knock it off.
Yeah.
Cut the shit.
Cut the shit. So moral of the story, I mean, it's okay. We have the right to be, we have the right of self-expression. We have the right to understand what's better in our own lane. We talked about, running your race on the last podcast. We have the right to get clear on what that is, and we also have the right to speak it.
Damn it, you got a voice. It matters. Use it.
Yeah, and it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to not walk around eggshells when you're talking about life-changing stuff. To me, work environment is it's a big thing. It takes up a lot of my day, right?
The majority of it.
Yeah. So getting better at having those conversations, it has been crucial. Yeah. For my well-being, mental well-being, as well as financially and all that stuff. But it's important just to if you have something to say, just put it out there. And I feel like also one thing that can, it's pretty interesting how it works when you're this is one thing that you'll see, people will get confused between being subtle and mellow, and they'll confuse that with weakness. It's not that, right?
This is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
I like this one.
Yeah, but it's part of that, speaking your truth part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are certain things that, okay, like this doesn't matter. I'm not going to create a fuzz about it and whatnot, because you're thinking about that highest and best, self, right?
Yeah, choose your battles.
Yeah, you pick your battles and whatever, right? At the end of the day, you're going to speak your truth. I speak my truth on the stuff that matters. Mm-hmm. But one misconception that I think happens sometimes is like people will confuse weakness with kindness, and it's a totally different thing. So speaking your truth is part of that. It rolls right into that. Yeah. It like, hey, listen. I mean, there's certain things that I'm not. They're non-negotiables, and it's okay to not be kind all the time if they're. If you're being, if your truth, for example, is being stepped on, or it's just you're going through something that's not in alignment, and it just doesn't pan out with the grand vision. You're gonna have a conversation. You're gonna clean it out, duke it out. At the end of the day, you're gonna fix it. But when you walk away, you're not gonna have that stressor in your space. You're not gonna have that distraction in your space. Yeah. Which I think at the end of the day, that's what matters. Most of the time, when you have difficult conversations or you speak your truth and stuff, you find a happy medium, and that's that's that, right? You move on from that. But don't be afraid about. Don't be afraid of stating who you are, stating your desires, stating what's in alignment for you, because that is part of our responsibility as entrepreneurs. We have to know ourselves. We have to understand ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and so I want to take another tangent with this, but it's so relevant, is that feedback. You know what I mean? Like in our men's group, right? We give each other feedback, meaning what you just did, how you behaved, whatever the situation is. Like I'm going to tell you honestly my perspective of like where you went wrong, or what you can do to improve yourself. Because at the end of the day, like I think as a society, we don't give each other enough feedback, and it really is a gift, because feedback is not criticism, right? Feedback comes from care, love, respect, support. Like I care enough about you to risk you being upset with what I have to say right now, but I would be a shitty friend or part of the problem if I don't tell you like your blind spot that you're not seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you got a booger hanging and no one tells you, and then you go in the bathroom and you realize you got one hanging, you're like, mother effer, no one told me, right?
You're
like,
walking around with this thing.
yeah, and the only reason you wouldn't tell me is because you would fear of what? I'm gonna get mad at you for telling me that I have a booger hanging? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, thank you, right? So it's like feedback. We got to give each other feedback. Well, you better be like confident and secure in your truth to speak it, because again, to even open your mouth is because I care enough about you to tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and if you're not willing to give feedback, you're not going to receive feedback. And if you don't receive feedback, how are you going to like elevate you and evolve you and clear up those blind spots so you can be present, conscious, and aware and evolve yourself?
Yeah. 100% agree. All right, fam. So yeah, there you have it. I mean, it's somewhat of a simple topic. It can be a little tougher to embrace than most other things, but there's nothing wrong with speaking our truth. There's nothing wrong with voicing who we are. There's nothing wrong with understanding ourselves and being loud about it, right?
Yeah.
So own it, own you, and speak your truth.
Yeah, and I'm only interested in understanding your BS story on why you think it's unacceptable to not speak your truth, and what's the value you receive in doing that, because it's not a positive one.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, anywhere on social media, YouTube at Mindset Coach JT, or my cell phone, 602-348-8534.
Someday I'm going to memorize your cell phone.
You still don't know? Dude, we're on episode like, what, 80-something? No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. Somewhere up there. Yeah,
it's only been like 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good, bro. I mean, not the podcast, but, you know.
So, fam, all right, make sure that you subscribe, like, and share to the CEO Pulse podcast and the Mindset Monday series. Follow me on social if you're not doing so yet. And remember, this is a two-way street, so send us your comments. We'll come in and we'll chop it up just like we did today. We love to hear your feedback and your truth on what you think about what we're doing here.
Please.
And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, stay focused. You got this. Boom.